A tiny metal disc can hold the entire story of a fallen empire. Ancient coins are far more than currency. They are cultural record books etched in metal. By the end of this journey, you will see these artifacts not as collectibles, but as pages from humanity's shared past. We will uncover how coins reveal lost political messages, sacred beliefs, and economic secrets that written history often misses. How did a coin become a ruler's most powerful propaganda tool? And what hidden gods appear on metal meant for the marketplace? What do you believe is the most enduring story a simple object can tell? The spark of this revolution came not from a great empire, but from a small, wealthy kingdom. In the 7th century before the Common Era, within the kingdom of Lydia, now part of Turkey, a radical idea was struck into metal. The Lydians discovered that a naturally occurring pale yellow alloy of gold and silver, called electrum, could be formed into standardized lumps. They then stamped these pieces with simple marks, guaranteeing their weight and purity. This was the moment money became a true unit of account, a reliable measure of value that was the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Before this, trade relied on barter or weighed scraps of precious metal, a messy and uncertain process for everyone involved. The invention of the coin was a seismic shift in human organization. It meant a merchant no longer had to carry a scale and argue over the quality of a silver nugget. A government could now collect taxes efficiently and pay its soldiers reliably. This simple, stamped disc became a physical token of trust, a promise that held value across time and distance. The power of this idea was irresistible, and it spread like wildfire across the known world. Greek city-states, seafaring traders, and competitive innovators eagerly adopted the concept. They quickly saw a coin's potential far beyond mere commerce. A coin was a tiny, durable billboard that could travel farther than any herald, carrying the symbols and messages of the state that issued it. This was the birth of a new language, one where metal and image could tell a story of power, faith, and identity to anyone who held it. But what stories did these early pioneers choose to tell, and how did they use this new canvas to shape their world? This new canvas of metal became a ruler's most powerful voice. Alexander the Great understood this better than anyone. As his empire stretched from Greece to India, his image traveled with it, stamped onto countless silver tetradrachms. These were not mere coins, they were mobile monuments. They showed Alexander not as a mere man, but often with the horns of Zeus Ammon, a deliberate fusion of his mortal leadership with divine approval. In a world without newspapers or the internet, holding one of these coins was to hold the face of your conqueror, a constant, tangible reminder of his power and your place within his domain. The Roman emperors perfected this art of metallic persuasion. Every coin issued from the mint was a press release and a portrait gallery combined. They presented themselves in an eternally youthful, stern, and heroic ideal, their brows often crowned with laurel leaves symbolizing victory and divine favor. The inscriptions were just as important as the images. Words like Pontifex Maximus or Supreme Priest and titles celebrating military triumphs were carefully chosen to reinforce their legitimacy and their God-given right to rule. For a citizen in a distant province, handling a coin with the emperor's face was a direct connection to the central power of Rome. It was a miniature pledge of allegiance, a daily reinforcement of who was in charge. These images created a unified identity across a vast and diverse empire, telling every person from Britain to Egypt that they were part of the same Roman story. The coins tell us not just who ruled, but how they desperately wanted to be seen. Yet this political message was only one side of the coin. Flip it over, and you often entered the realm of the divine. Beyond the emperor's portrait lay a pantheon of gods and a world of sacred symbols, turning each piece of currency into a miniature temple. These religious motifs were not chosen at random. They were a direct reflection of the spiritual heart of a civilization. For the ancient Greeks, a coin was a canvas for their most powerful deities. An Athenian tetradrachm was instantly recognizable by the helmeted head of Athena, the city's fierce protector and namesake. On the reverse, her sacred owl stood alongside an olive sprig, symbols of wisdom and prosperity that were gifts from the goddess herself. Holding such a coin was to hold a piece of the city's divine identity, a constant reminder that its wealth and success were blessed by the gods. The Romans took this concept and fused it completely with the state. Their coins frequently featured grand temples with intricate columns, smoking altars ready for sacrifice, and personified virtues like pietas, representing duty and loyal respect for the gods. A coin might show the emperor himself, veiled and performing a religious ceremony, hammering home the idea that his political power was inseparable from his role as the chief priest. This was divine favor made metallic, a promise that the gods were on Rome's side. Perhaps the most fascinating spiritual journeys are told by coins from the edges of empires. The Kushan rulers in ancient India issued gold coins that are breathtaking cultural blends. On one side, a king might be shown with the full, powerful physique of a Greek hero, but his name is written in Bactrian script. On the reverse, you could find the Greek god Helios, the Persian deity Mithra, or even the Buddha himself, identified by name in Greek letters. This was not confusion, it was a brilliant and deliberate syncretism. By placing all these gods on their currency, the Kushans were telling every diverse group within their empire that they saw them, that their beliefs were valued, and that they were all part of a new, unified whole. These coins were far more than money. They were portable testaments to faith, weaving the spiritual into the very fabric of everyday commerce. But the stories told by these coins are not just political or spiritual, they are profoundly economic. The very metal in your hand, its weight, and its markings form a detailed ledger of a civilization's financial health. A coin is a frozen moment of economic truth. The widespread discovery of Roman silver denarii in places as far apart as India and Scandinavia paints a vivid map of ancient trade routes. These small silver discs did not travel that far on their own. They were carried by merchants and soldiers, proof of a vast, interconnected commercial network that moved goods, ideas, and wealth across continents. The Roman economy was so powerful and trusted that its currency became the standard, much like the American dollar is today. But this trust was not infinite, and the coins themselves record its erosion. When empires faced financial trouble, they often resorted to a sly trick called debasement. This meant minting new coins that looked identical to the old ones, but contained less silver or gold, mixing in more of a cheaper metal like copper. It was a hidden tax, a silent inflation. By studying the gradual decline in the silver content of the denarius over centuries, we can trace Rome's growing desperation to pay for its massive army and sprawling bureaucracy, a slow-motion financial crisis etched in metal. The most dramatic economic stories are often found not in circulation but in concealment. Across the ancient world, people buried their savings in times of war or invasion, hoping to return for them later. These hidden hoards, unearthed centuries later, are like time capsules of panic. The composition of a hoard tells a numismatist everything. A chest filled with the newest, highest quality coins might indicate a merchant's active savings, buried hastily as an army approached. A mixed bag of older, worn coins suggests the life savings of an ordinary family, hidden away and never recovered. The dates on the latest coins in a hoard can often pinpoint the exact year disaster struck, marking the moment when hope was lost and treasure was left in the ground. Through these silent metal witnesses, we can reconstruct the pulse of ancient markets, trace the flow of resources, and understand how our ancestors grappled with the timeless challenges of financial stability and collapse. These artistic styles were never static. They evolved with breathtaking clarity across the metal canvas. The journey begins with the master engravers of ancient Greece. Their coins were miniature sculptures, displaying gods and animals with such intricate detail and lifelike movement that they remain objects of awe today. A Syracusan decadrachum might show the nymph Arethusa surrounded by dolphins, her hair flowing with a realism that seems to defy the hardness of the metal. This was not just decoration, it was a declaration of cultural pride and unmatched technical skill, a city-state proclaiming its sophistication for all the world to see. Then came the Hellenistic period following the conquests of Alexander, and with it a revolution in perspective. The focus shifted from idealized gods to realistic portraits of rulers. These were not flattering caricatures. They showed individuals with furrowed brows, strong jaws, and unmistakable expressions of authority and concern. This was the birth of psychological portraiture on coinage, a deeply human art form that sought to capture the soul of the subject. The Romans saw this innovation and adopted it completely, but with their own distinct purpose. Roman portraiture on coins embraced every wrinkle, every receding hairline, every look of grim determination. This verism, this truthfulness, was a powerful political tool. It presented the emperor as a seasoned, capable leader, weighed down by the burdens of office but resolute in his duty to Rome. But the most fascinating artistic developments occurred at the crossroads of empires. When cultures collided, their coin designs began a silent conversation. A Celtic tribe might imitate a Macedonian coin, but replace the head of Apollo with a local deity or a wild, abstract pattern that reflected their own artistic sensibilities. In ancient India, Indo-Greek kings issued coins that are stunning fusions. On one side, a ruler might be named in Greek, his portrait in a distinctly Hellenistic style. On the reverse, a popular Indian symbol like the Lakshmi goddess or a Buddhist wheel appears, speaking directly to the local population. This was not mere copying, it was a deliberate and sophisticated blending of identities, a way for a ruler to visually communicate to all his diverse subjects that he understood and respected their traditions. The coins became a visual dialect, a hybrid language of power that everyone could understand. This constant stylistic evolution, from idealized beauty to realistic power to cultural fusion, turns every coin into a dated chapter in the history of art itself, charting the journey of human creativity across continents and centuries. Beyond the images lies a second, equally rich layer of storytelling, etched in miniature letters that circle the coin's edge. These inscriptions are not decorative afterthoughts, they are the captions to the visual history, written in the living languages of the ancient world. Each character is a tiny time capsule, preserving fragments of Latin, Greek, Sanskrit, and other tongues that might have otherwise faded into silence. For historians, this written word is a master key. It provides the hard facts that images can only suggest. The full, formal title of a ruler is often spelled out in painstaking detail, a complete resume of their claimed power and divine favor. The name of a mint city might appear, telling us exactly where this piece of metal was struck, helping us map the administrative and economic geography of long-vanished empires. Most crucially, a coin frequently bears a date, either by the ruler's regnal year or a local calendar system. This allows us to chronologically anchor events with a precision that other artifacts rarely offer, creating a fixed timeline from what was once a relative sequence of kings and battles. A single line of text can turn an anonymous coin into a dated historical document. The true linguistic magic happens where cultures meet. In places like the ancient kingdom of Bactria, we find breathtakingly rare bilingual coins. One side might proclaim the king's name and titles in elegant, flowing Greek letters, while the reverse carries the same information in the local Kharoshthi script. This was not just practical, it was profoundly political. It sent a clear, inclusive message to every subject, regardless of their native tongue, that they were seen and valued by the state. These coins are frozen moments of ancient diplomacy and daily bureaucracy. The inscriptions often use official abbreviations, a kind of ancient shorthand that reveals the efficiency of state administration. They also carry powerful slogans and religious dedications, concise political messages meant to be read and understood. A phrase like fel temp reparatio, found on later Roman coins, translates to the restoration of happy times, a hopeful slogan stamped onto currency during a period of great upheaval, a government trying to promise stability even as its world was changing. Through these tiny texts, we gain insights into ancient literacy, the reach of official propaganda, and the complex machinery of state communication. A coin, therefore, is both a picture book and a history book, its metal surface whispering secrets in a dozen lost languages to those who know how to listen. A single coin found far from home rewrites our map of the ancient world. These small metal objects did not travel alone, they moved with people, tracing invisible highways of commerce and conquest across the globe. The geographical distribution of coin finds is like a massive, crowd-sourced ancient GPS, revealing the true extent of trade networks and political influence that written records only hint at. Consider the astonishing discovery of Roman silver denarii in southern India. This was not a casual loss, but evidence of a thriving trade route. Roman merchants, lured by the exotic spices, precious gems, and fine textiles of the subcontinent, sailed their ships on the monsoon winds, carrying with them the currency of their empire. In exchange for Eastern luxuries, they paid in silver, and that silver, those coins, settled in Indian hoards, marking the endpoints of a journey that connected the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean. This was the Silk Road in metallic form, a tangible record of globalism that is 2,000 years old. But coins did not just follow official routes, they were also adopted and adapted. Celtic tribes in Europe, encountering the beautiful and powerful coinage of the Greek kingdom of Macedon, did not just use them, they started making their own versions. They took the basic design, the head of the god Apollo, and transformed it into something entirely their own, with wild, abstract features that reflected their unique artistic vision. These Celtic imitations are not forgeries, they are a powerful statement of cultural conversation. They tell us that these tribes were integrated into a broader economic sphere, but they were asserting their own identity within it, using the language of coinage to do so. Perhaps the most dramatic geographical clues come from hoards buried in the earth and never recovered. When archaeologists uncover a cluster of coin hoards all dating to the same period along a remote frontier, they are almost certainly looking at a map of fear. These were the savings of people living on the edge of an empire, farmers and merchants who buried their wealth in the face of an invading army or a sudden raid, hoping to return when the danger passed. The fact that the coins were never dug up tells its own tragic story. The pattern of these hidden treasures allows scholars to chart the advance of a military campaign or identify regions that were perpetually insecure, turning a farmer's panic into a data point for understanding ancient geopolitics. By meticulously plotting these fine spots on a map, a blurred picture suddenly snaps into focus. We can watch the Roman Empire expand outward, see the cultural influence of Greece ripple across continents, and trace the flow of goods from a mine in Spain to a market in Afghanistan. Each coin is a dot on a connect-the-dots picture of human civilization, revealing a world that was far more interconnected than we ever imagined. The artistry on the surface was made possible by remarkable feats of engineering beneath the hammer. The very method of creating a coin, the minting process itself, is a silent record of a civilization's technological ambition and its relentless drive for efficiency. It all began with the simple, demanding skill of the hand-struck coin. A skilled artisan, a cellator, would meticulously carve a design in reverse onto a hardened iron rod, creating the die. One die for the front or obverse, often carrying the ruler's portrait, and another for the reverse design. A blank metal flan, heated to make it malleable, was placed between these dies. Then, with a mighty blow from a hammer, the image was forced onto the metal. This was an art form of immense precision, requiring incredible strength and an artist's eye to ensure the strike was centered and clear. Each coin was a unique performance, a tiny collaboration between the sculptor's hand and the blacksmith's arm. You can still see the evidence of this human process on ancient coins, in the slight off-center strikes or the unique flow lines of the metal from the hammer's impact. But as empires grew, so did their need for currency. The Roman appetite for coins was insatiable, required to pay the legions guarding distant frontiers and to fund the immense bureaucracy that administered the known world. They could not rely on the slow, artisanal methods of the past. Their genius was in industrializing this art. They developed a system of mass production, using multiple dies made from a single master model to ensure consistency. They organized their mints like factories, with teams of workers each performing a specialized task, from preparing the flans to striking the coins. This was not just an artistic evolution, it was a logistical revolution, a testament to the Roman ability to systematize and scale production to meet the colossal demands of their state. What can the metal itself, stripped of its images and inscriptions, tell us? Modern science allows us to listen to its elemental whisper. Techniques like X-ray fluorescence spectrometry enable researchers to analyze a coin's composition without harming it, revealing the precise percentages of gold, silver, copper, and trace elements within. This data is a forensic gold mine. A sudden drop in the silver content of Roman denarius, for instance, is not just a number on a chart. It is the stark signature of an empire struggling to pay its bills, secretly diluting its currency to stretch its silver reserves. The unique chemical fingerprint of the metal can even be matched to specific ore sources, tracing a coin back to a particular mine in Spain or a played-out vein in Anatolia. This maps ancient resource networks, showing us where a civilization drew its wealth from and how it managed those precious commodities. The technological story of a coin, from the hand-carved die to the atomic signature of its ore, reveals a society's priorities. It shows us the relentless pursuit of efficiency, the clever management of scarce resources, and the undeniable link between technological innovation and economic power. The mint was the engine room of the ancient economy, and every coin that rolled out of it carried the unmistakable mark of that engine's design. This metallic network of trade and technology touched every single life in the ancient world. From the emperor in his palace to the farmer selling his vegetables in a dusty market, coins were the common thread that connected them all. The type of coin you carried in your pouch instantly announced your place in the social order. A senator paying for a country estate would do so with heavy gold ore, each one a substantial store of wealth meant for the elite. These coins were not for buying bread, they were for buying loyalty, settling massive debts, or funding grand public projects. To hold a gold coin was to hold a piece of the empire's most concentrated power, a token of the highest economic and social circles. Yet the true engine of daily life was the humble bronze coin. These smaller, more numerous issues were the loose change of antiquity, jingling in the purses of merchants, soldiers, and housewives alike. This was the currency of the everyday, used to pay for a loaf of bread, a measure of wine, or a trip to the public baths. The wear on these low-denomination coins tells its own story, passed from hand to hand thousands of times until the faces were worn smooth, a testament to their constant, vital role in the economy of the common person. The designs on these everyday coins often spoke directly to the lives of the masses. A Roman bronze might commemorate the completion of a new aqueduct that brought fresh water to the city, or a lavish set of public games funded by the emperor. This was a clever feedback loop. The state issued coins celebrating a public benefit. That coin was then used by the citizens to participate in the very economy that benefit supported, constantly reinforcing the message of a prosperous society under good leadership. For a brief moment, the peasant holding that bronze coin was connected to the grand spectacle of the games or the engineering marvel of clean water, his small transaction part of a larger civic pride. The material itself reinforced the hierarchy. A gold coin, dense and untarnishing, symbolized permanence and the unchanging power of the upper class. A bronze coin, lighter and prone to corrosion, reflected the transient, day-to-day struggles of the lower classes. Yet each was essential. Without the gold, the state could not function, and without the bronze, the market could not breathe. This system of high and low value coinage paints a precise picture of ancient social structure, showing us not just how people paid for things, but how their currency constantly reminded them of their station in a vast, interconnected world. A coin could announce a victory before the news had even reached the capital. These small metal discs were the breaking news alerts of the ancient world, a government's first and most enduring proclamation of a major event. When a Roman emperor celebrated a triumph, one of his first acts was often to commission a new coin issue, broadcasting his success to every corner of the empire. Perhaps the most famous example is the Judea Capta series, struck after the brutal suppression of the Jewish revolt in the 1st century. These coins did not shy away from their message. They show a mourning woman symbolizing the defeated province of Judea, seated beneath a Roman trophy of stacked weapons. The clear, stark legend simply reads Judea Capta, Judea has been conquered. This was not just a record of a military campaign. It was a powerful piece of psychological warfare and political justification, a warning to any other province that might consider rebellion. But the scope of these metallic bulletins was vast. A new emperor's ascension to the throne was always marked by a flurry of new coinage, introducing his portrait and official titles to the populace. Anniversaries of his rule were celebrated with special issues. The completion of a major public work, like a new aqueduct or a grand temple, would be commemorated with an intricate depiction of the building itself, a permanent metallic ribbon-cutting ceremony. Even natural disasters could be spun into propaganda, with coins thanking the gods for deliverance from a great fire or a plague. For the Greeks, the canvas was often one of cultural pride. A city might issue a stunning silver decadrachm to celebrate a victory at the Olympic Games, immortalizing the champion's chariot or the wreath of olive leaves. The founding of a new colony across the sea was a common reason for a commemorative issue, a way to mark the birth of a new city and maintain a tangible link to its motherland. Each of these coins provides a modern historian with an invaluable anchor point. Because they were produced for a specific occasion and in a specific year, they allow us to date events and archaeological layers with remarkable precision. The latest coin found in the ruins of a burned city can tell us the year the destruction must have happened after, but we must also read these messages with a critical eye. A coin celebrating a great Roman victory over a barbarian tribe might, upon closer inspection of other records, commemorate a stalemate or even a paid truce. The official narrative is always one of success and divine favor, a glorified version of events designed to strengthen the ruler's position. The true power of these ancient news bulletins lies in their incredible durability. While a papyrus scroll decreeing the same victory would crumble to dust and a crier's voice would fade on the wind, the coin endured. It passed from hand to hand across generations, its message unchanged. It was news that refused to become history, ensuring the ruler's chosen story would be the one that ultimately echoed through the ages. A coin's design is a deliberate declaration of identity, a visual answer to the most fundamental question a people can ask: who are we? Beyond the reach of emperors and economic policy, local mints across the ancient world used this small canvas to assert their unique cultural spirit, often in quiet defiance of larger, dominant influences. Celtic tribes in Europe provide a stunning example. When they encountered the realistic portraiture of Greek and Roman coins, they did not simply copy it. They transformed it. Their coins feature wild, mesmerizingly abstract designs, swirling patterns, and powerful stylized animals like boars and horses that seem to pulse with energy. These were not attempts at realistic depiction. They were expressions of a different worldview, one deeply connected to nature, local mythology, and a distinct artistic vision that valued symbolism over realism. This was cultural identity forged in silver and gold, a bold statement of difference meant for both internal pride and external communication. Far to the east, the Parthian Empire, which rose to challenge Rome, made a similar declaration of independence through its coinage. Earlier rulers in the region had used thoroughly Greek styles, a lingering effect of Alexander the Great's conquests, but the Parthians consciously broke from this tradition. Their coins show their kings not as clean-shaven Hellenistic rulers, but with thick, distinctive beards, wearing the practical trousers and detailed headdresses of their Central Asian steppe heritage. Every element of their portrait was a rejection of the Greek mold, a powerful reassertion of their own ethnic identity, and a clear signal that a new, independent power now held sway. Perhaps the most sophisticated conversation between cultures is found in Ptolemaic Egypt. Here, the Greek rulers who succeeded Alexander did not impose their identity outright, nor did they fully adopt the local one. Instead, they crafted a brilliant hybrid. Their coins famously show them in the classical Greek style on one side, but on the reverse, they might feature the mighty eagle of Zeus sitting alongside Egyptian symbols like the cornucopia. Most tellingly, the Ptolemies often depicted themselves in the traditional regalia of the pharaohs, the ultimate symbol of legitimate rule to the Egyptian people. This was a masterful political and cultural fusion. It told the Greek ruling class that their leader was one of them, while simultaneously telling the vast Egyptian population that he was also their rightful god-king pharaoh. It was a single coin designed to speak two different cultural languages at once, fostering unity and legitimizing power through visual compromise. In every case, the choice of a symbol, a style of dress, or a local deity was never accidental. It was a calculated act of self-representation. A community could use its coinage to display fierce cultural pride and resistance, to signal a strategic assimilation, or to expertly navigate a blended identity. These small metal discs become mirrors held up by ancient societies, showing us not just who they were ruled by, but who they truly believed themselves to be. This stamp of authority was not a suggestion, but a legal mandate. The very existence of a coin was a declaration of state power, a physical object governed by a complex web of laws that dictated its weight, its purity, and even its imagery. This legal framework transformed currency from a simple medium of exchange into a bedrock of administrative control. In ancient Athens, this system created one of the first internationally recognized brands. The city's iconic owl coins were so meticulously standardized and reliably pure that they became the preferred currency across the Mediterranean. Merchants from Egypt to the Black Sea trusted these Athenian owls implicitly, accepting them at face value far beyond the reach of Athenian law. This was not just economic influence, it was the power of a legal guarantee made tangible, proving that a state's reputation could be its most valuable export. The Romans took this concept of control to an entirely new level. Emperors personally oversaw a sprawling network of mints, each one an official arm of the imperial government. The production of coinage was a state secret, a carefully guarded process to prevent forgery and protect the integrity of the monetary system. Counterfeiting was not just a crime, it was a direct attack on the emperor's authority and the stability of the empire, punishable by death. This tight control was essential for paying the massive Roman army and funding the bureaucracy that held the empire together. A soldier on the German frontier needed to know that the silver denarius in his pay was identical in value to one spent in the markets of Rome or Alexandria. The inscriptions on these coins often serve as tiny legal documents themselves. Abbreviated mint marks tell us exactly which official workshop produced the coin, creating a system of accountability that stretched across provinces. Some coins even carry references to specific legal decrees or senatorial approvals, offering us a direct glimpse into the legislative machinery of the ancient world. This intricate legal and administrative system ensured that every coin was a multi-tool of empire. It was a unit of economic value, a vehicle for propaganda, and a powerful instrument of law. Each coin that changed hands was a silent enforcer of state authority, a miniature diplomat of trust, and a durable receipt from a government's promise to its people. These miniature metal discs became the picture books of the ancient world. Across the Mediterranean, Greek city-states used their coinage to illustrate the epic tales of their mythology, transforming abstract stories into tangible, widely circulated images. A coin from Thebes might show the mighty Heracles clad in his lion skin, wrestling the Nemean lion, his muscles straining in a frozen moment of heroic effort. An issue from Athens could depict the hero Theseus victorious over the monstrous Minotaur in the labyrinth, a powerful symbol of civilization triumphing over chaos. These were not random scenes, they were carefully chosen episodes from a shared cultural library, stories every citizen would recognize and take pride in. By placing these narratives on currency, the state was doing far more than decorating money. It was broadcasting its values. The labors of Heracles taught lessons of perseverance and strength in the face of impossible odds. The victory of Theseus reinforced the ideals of cunning and bravery. Holding such a coin was a daily reminder of the heroic standards that bound the community together. The Romans adopted this practice with their own foundational legends. Their coins frequently feature the iconic scene of the infant twins Romulus and Remus being suckled by the she-wolf. This image was the origin story of Rome itself, a constant metallic reminder of the city's humble, divinely favored beginnings and its destined greatness. For a Roman soldier stationed in cold, distant Britain, pulling such a coin from his purse was a direct connection to the mythic heart of his homeland, reinforcing his sense of identity and purpose. The consistency of these depictions is what makes them so valuable to us today. They show us which versions of these myths were most popular and officially sanctioned, revealing how a society wanted its stories to be told and remembered. They provide a visual canon for tales that were often told orally, preserving a specific artistic interpretation for millennia. Through these small metal canvases, we gain unparalleled access to the mythological imagination of ancient peoples, understanding not just what they believed, but how they chose to see themselves in the grand, heroic mirror of their own legends. A new coin in your hand could feel like a foreign occupation. As empires swallowed entire cultures, they understood that controlling money was the first step toward controlling minds. The Roman legions marching into Britain did not just bring soldiers and laws, they brought sacks of silver denarii. To the local population, these coins were a shock. On one side was the stern, unfamiliar face of a distant emperor in Rome, a clear symbol of a new, unwanted master. But the Romans were pragmatic conquerors. They knew that outright cultural erasure often sparked rebellion. So, on the reverse of these very same coins, they sometimes included symbols that a Briton might recognize. You might find the familiar image of a galloping horse, a creature deeply revered in local mythology, placed right beside the imperial eagle. This was not a gesture of respect, it was a calculated strategy. By blending the symbols of power with the symbols of the conquered, Rome offered a subtle olive branch. It whispered a message of continuity, suggesting that life under the empire would not mean the complete destruction of the old ways, just their absorption into a new Roman order. This delicate balancing act of domination and accommodation is etched into the metal of colonial coinage. Alexander the Great's successors mastered this art of hybrid rule. In the vast territories he conquered, from Egypt to the edges of India, his generals founded new kingdoms to legitimize their rule over millions of people who did not share their language or gods. They issued breathtakingly blended coins. A Seleucid king in Syria might strike a coin showing himself in the realistic, heroic style of a Greek ruler, but on the reverse, he places the Babylonian god Bel, a deity worshipped for millennia by the local population. In Ptolemaic Egypt, the Greek rulers went even further, depicting themselves in the full regalia of the ancient pharaohs, complete with headdress and crook on their coinage. This was a brilliant visual deception, a way to tell two different stories to two different audiences. To the Greek immigrant soldiers and administrators, the king was a familiar Hellenistic monarch. To the native Egyptian populace, he was the latest incarnation of their god King Pharaoh, a legitimate ruler in a line that stretched back to the dawn of time. These coins were instruments of soft power, designed to manufacture consent and ease the friction of foreign rule. Yet these imperial messages were not always accepted passively. The coins also record subtle acts of resistance and cultural persistence. In some Celtic regions under Roman control, local mints were allowed to operate. The coins they produced often awkwardly imitated Roman designs, but the execution was distinctly local. The emperor's portrait might become a strange, stylized mask, and the imperial eagle might transform into a more abstract, powerful bird native to local art. This was not poor craftsmanship, it was a quiet declaration of identity. Even while using the currency of the conqueror, the engraver's hand could infuse it with a hidden spirit of the old ways, a silent protest in silver and gold that circulated right under the nose of the authorities. By studying these hybrid coins, we see the entire drama of colonialism play out on a tiny stage. We witness the strategies of the powerful to appear familiar and the ingenious methods of the subjugated to retain their sense of self. Every blended symbol is a negotiated identity, a fragile compromise between the hammer of imperial ambition and the anvil of unyielding culture. The emperor's face became the most recognized image in the ancient world. This was the true power of personalized portraiture on coinage, a revolutionary shift that began to take hold during the Roman Republic. Before this era, coins largely featured gods, heroes, or symbolic animals. But ambitious Roman families saw a new opportunity. They started placing the faces of their own distinguished ancestors on the coins they issued, a brilliant form of political advertising that linked their present status to a glorious past. It was a claim to inherited virtue and a bid for public office, all stamped onto a silver denarius. This set the stage for a much more concentrated form of power. With the rise of the empire, the coinage became a canvas for one man alone, the emperor. His portrait was no longer just an image, it was a direct extension of his authority, and it was designed to be instantly identifiable from Britain to Syria. The genius of Roman imperial portraiture was its embrace of verism, a startling truthfulness. Unlike the eternally youthful and idealized gods of Greek coinage, Roman emperors were often shown aging. They sported receding hairlines, deep furrows on their brows, and lines of care etched around their mouths. This was a carefully crafted illusion of honesty. These were not vain glamour shots, they were portraits of experience. Every wrinkle was meant to convey gravitas, the heavy burden of command, and the seasoned wisdom that came from guiding the empire through crisis. It was a visual promise of stable, capable leadership in an often unstable world. Of course, this realism was always in service of propaganda. The portraits were idealized in their own way, emphasizing strength of character and moral virtue over mere physical beauty. A weak chin might be strengthened, a nervous expression replaced with one of grim determination. The message was clear: this was no ordinary man, but a leader chosen by the gods and hardened by duty. This personalized currency forged an unprecedented connection between the ruler and the ruled. A farmer in Gaul might never set foot in Rome or see the emperor in person, but he could hold that imperial face in his hand every market day. It created a pervasive sense of the emperor's omnipresence, fostering a personal loyalty that transcended vast distances. The coin became a tiny, mobile monument to the cult of personality, ensuring that every transaction was also a subtle reminder of who held the power and provided the peace that made daily life possible. A coin could preach a sermon of tolerance to an entire empire. In the vast multicultural realms of antiquity, rulers faced a constant challenge: how to govern a patchwork of peoples, each with their own gods and traditions. One of their most ingenious solutions was struck directly into their currency. These coins became more than money. They transformed into metallic declarations of religious acceptance and deliberate cultural blending, a policy we call syncretism. The Kushan Empire, which ruled Central Asia and northern India around 2,000 years ago, offers one of the most breathtaking examples. Their gold coins are a visual pantheon of the ancient world. On a single issue, you might find the Greek sun god Helios driving his chariot across the heavens. Another coin could feature the Persian divinity Mithra or the Hindu god Shiva standing with his trident. Most remarkably, some Kushan coins are among the very first to ever depict the Buddha, his figure serene and unmistakable, often labeled with his name in Greek letters. This was not a random assortment of deities, it was a calculated and inclusive spiritual menu. By honoring every major god worshipped across their diverse territories, the Kushan kings sent a powerful message to every subject. They were saying, your faith is seen, your god is respected, and you have a place within our empire. This policy of religious pluralism, frozen in gold, was a brilliant strategy for fostering stability and loyalty in a realm of countless cultures. The Romans, masters of pragmatic rule, employed a similar tactic, though often with a more political edge. While the official state religion and the cult of the deified emperor always took precedence, Roman provincial mints frequently issued coins that paid homage to local gods. A coin struck in Roman Egypt might show Serapis, a deity who was himself a fusion of Greek and Egyptian gods, creating a perfect symbol of unity. In Gaul, a coin could feature a local woodland god standing comfortably next to a Roman standard. This was a subtle form of diplomatic flattery and control. By placing a local deity on an official Roman coin, the authorities acknowledged the importance of that community's beliefs, effectively co-opting their god into the broader imperial system. It made foreign rule feel slightly less foreign, suggesting that Roman power would protect all gods and, by extension, all people. These coins are hard evidence of complex interfaith dynamics long before the modern era. They show us that ancient leaders understood the power of religious inclusion as a tool for unity. They reveal moments of attempted harmony, where the state acted not to suppress belief, but to create a broad, accommodating religious umbrella under which everyone could stand. By reading these metallic sermons, we learn that the drive to build bridges between different faiths is itself an ancient and enduring human story. A woman's face on a coin was a statement of extraordinary power. In the male-dominated political landscapes of antiquity, the decision to feature a female figure was never casual. It was a deliberate and often radical act that communicated complex messages about authority, virtue, and the divine. These rare appearances offer us a precious window into how ancient societies viewed women's roles, from the pinnacle of political power to the realm of abstract ideals. Perhaps the most famous example is Cleopatra VII, the last active pharaoh of Ptolemaic Egypt. Her coinage is a masterclass in political messaging. On her issues, she carefully avoided the idealized beauty described by Roman poets, instead presenting a stark, realistic portrait with a strong jaw, a hooked nose, and a determined gaze. This was not a portrait of seduction, but one of raw, masculine power, a visual claim to kingship that was meant to be taken seriously by her subjects and rivals alike. She often shared the coin with her male co-rulers, her son Caesarion or her Roman partner Mark Antony, but her image was always distinct and commanding, asserting her authority as an equal in a world that rarely allowed it. In Rome, the representation of women was more circumscribed but equally revealing. Empresses like Faustina the Younger, wife of Marcus Aurelius, appeared on the currency, but their portraits were carefully crafted to embody specific domestic virtues. Faustina was celebrated not for military conquests, but for her fertility, her role as a mother, and her loyalty as a wife. Coins issued after her death depict her being carried to the heavens by a winged figure, a message that her womanly virtues had earned her a place among the gods. This reinforced the societal ideal that a woman's highest contribution to the state was through her family and her unwavering support of her husband's reign. Beyond mortal women, the ancient world frequently used the female form to give body to abstract concepts. The Romans were masters of this. The goddess Roma, a helmeted warrior woman, was the physical embodiment of the city itself, its spirit and its martial power. Victoria, the winged goddess of victory, was shown on countless coins, crowning emperors and inscribing shields, a divine female endorsement of male military success. Other personifications like Securitas, representing safety, or Abundantia, representing plenty, were always depicted as serene, graceful women, their attributes making complex ideals instantly recognizable to any citizen. These representations, while often idealized and reflective of patriarchal values, are nonetheless crucial historical evidence. They prove that women, both real and symbolic, held a visible and vital place in the public imagination. A coin with a woman's face was a powerful tool to legitimize a queen's rule, to promote family values as a foundation of the state, or to make the intangible goals of peace and prosperity feel tangible and divine. They remind us that even in societies where women's voices were often suppressed, their image could speak volumes about power, stability, and the values a culture held most sacred. A sudden drop in silver content is a silent scream of imperial panic. This process, known as debasement, is the most direct and damning evidence of economic crisis etched into the metal of ancient coins. It was a desperate, hidden tax, a financial sleight of hand performed by states on the brink. The Roman Empire provides the textbook example of this long, slow unraveling. The silver denarius, once a symbol of rock-solid reliability, began a steady and tragic decline. In its purest form under Emperor Augustus, it was over 95% fine silver, a gleaming, trusted piece of currency. But over the next 2.5 centuries, that percentage plummeted. To pay for endless frontier wars, colossal public works, and a bloated bureaucracy, the imperial mints started secretly mixing in more and more copper. They would produce new coins that looked identical to the old ones, with the same emperor's face and proud inscriptions, but their intrinsic value was a hollow lie. By the time of the 3rd century crisis, a period of intense civil war and foreign invasion, the denarius was a pathetic bronze coin with the faintest silver wash, a mere 5% precious metal. You can almost feel the desperation in these coins, their lightweight feel and coppery core betraying the empire's crumbling foundations. This was not a smooth decline, but a series of sharp drops corresponding directly to major military disasters or political upheavals. A modern historian can take a coin hoard, analyze its metal content, and chart the empire's financial health like a patient's fever chart, each drop in silver marking a spike in political fever. The consequences were devastatingly modern hyperinflation. As people realized the new coins were practically worthless, prices skyrocketed. A measure of grain that cost a few denarii 1 year might cost a sackful a decade later. Trust in the government's promise, the very foundation of coinage, evaporated. People began hoarding the older, purer coins, a behavior known as Gresham's law, where bad money drives out good. This forced the state to debase even further to keep any currency in circulation, creating a vicious cycle that strangled the economy. These coins are not just records of failure, they are records of attempted solutions. Later emperors like Diocletian and Constantine were forced to completely restructure the entire monetary system, introducing new gold and silver coins in a desperate attempt to reset public trust and stabilize prices. Every debased coin, therefore, is a fossilized moment of economic triage, a stark reminder that the health of a nation's currency is inseparable from the health of the state itself. Even the heaviest imperial boot could not stamp out local identity. When foreign coins flooded into conquered territories, they were not always accepted passively. The response from native populations was a fascinating spectrum of adaptation, from subtle resistance to creative reinvention, proving that cultural exchange is never a one-way street. Celtic tribes in Europe provide a powerful example of this metallic defiance. Upon encountering the beautifully rendered coins of the Greek kingdom of Macedon, they did not simply use them as they were. Instead, they began to produce their own versions. They took the core design, the head of the god Apollo, and utterly transformed it. The realistic Greek features gave way to wild, swirling patterns, abstract eyes, and hair that flowed like crashing waves. The horses on the reverse became powerful, symbolic creatures, all muscle and spirit. These were not poor imitations, they were bold artistic statements. By taking the foreign concept of coinage and infusing it with their own ancient artistic language, the Celts were asserting their cultural identity. They were participating in the broader economic system on their own terms, using the conqueror's technology to proclaim their own unique vision of the world. Far to the east, in ancient India, a different kind of negotiation was taking place. The Indo-Greek kings, descendants of Alexander's generals who ruled parts of northwestern India, faced the challenge of governing a population that did not share their language or customs. Their solution was struck in silver and gold. They issued coins that are stunning works of diplomatic art. On one side, the king is depicted in a thoroughly Greek style, with a realistic portrait and his name inscribed in Greek. But flip the coin over and you enter an Indian world. Here we find symbols sacred to local beliefs, like the Lakshmi goddess or the Buddhist wheel of law. Most crucially, the inscriptions are bilingual. The king's name and titles are also written in Prakrit using the local Kharosthi script. This was a masterful act of inclusion. It allowed the Greek ruling class to see their familiar ruler, while simultaneously telling the Indian populace that their new king respected their gods, understood their language, and valued their traditions. The coin became a bridge between two cultures, a tangible promise that assimilation did not have to mean erasure. In both cases, the metal reveals a hidden narrative of agency. The Celtic coins whisper a story of resistance through art, a quiet insistence on being seen as different. The Indo-Greek coins tell a story of deliberate hybridity, a pragmatic and intelligent strategy for building a cohesive state. These numismatic documents prove that the conquered were never merely passive recipients of foreign influence. They were active participants, constantly negotiating their place within a new order, finding clever ways to preserve their soul while navigating the economic realities of domination. Every adapted symbol, every blended design, is a fingerprint of human resilience. Every coin began its life in a fortress of fire and state control. The mint was far more than a simple workshop. It was a strategic nerve center for the entire economy, a place where raw metal was transformed into the very lifeblood of empire. These facilities were always located with immense care, positioned in the capital city under the watchful eye of the emperor, or placed in key provincial hubs to supply distant armies with their pay. A mint's location was a clear signal of its purpose, whether it was to project power from the heart of the state or to fuel the engines of war on a faraway frontier. Inside these guarded compounds, the process was a symphony of highly specialized labor. Master engravers, known as cellators, carved intricate designs in reverse onto hardened steel dies, their hands turning metal into art. Metallurgists carefully alloyed precious gold and silver with base copper, ensuring each mix met the official standard. Weighmasters measured blank flans, while strong armed workers heated the metal and struck the coins with heavy hammers. This was ancient mass production, a complex collaboration of artists, scientists, and laborers all working under one roof, directed by state administrators who recorded every ounce of silver and every coin produced. To maintain accountability in this vast system, the Romans perfected a brilliant innovation, the mint mark. Tiny letters and symbols were added to the coin dies, often on the reverse side. To the average citizen, these were meaningless marks, but to the imperial treasury, they were a complete audit trail. A mint mark could tell you which workshop produced the coin, which official was in charge that year, and even which batch of metal was used. This system of abbreviations, like a secret code, allowed the central administration to track output, control quality, and root out corruption across thousands of miles. The story these mint marks tell is one of an empire's changing fortunes. In the early, stable days of the empire, a few major mints sufficed, but as crises mounted in the 3rd century, the system fractured. The need to pay vast armies on multiple fronts simultaneously led to an explosion of new, regional mints. Coins began to spring from places once on the periphery, a clear sign of decentralization. The central government was losing its grip, forced to delegate the sacred right of coin production to local commanders just to keep the legions paid and loyal. The map of mints becomes a map of desperation, showing an empire trying to hold itself together by spreading its economic authority ever thinner. By studying the location, output, and markings of these ancient factories, we can reconstruct the economic mind of the ancient world. The placement of a mint reveals strategic priorities. Was it to control a rich silver mine or to supply a riverine trade route? The volume of coins produced from a specific workshop in a given year can indicate a major military campaign, requiring a sudden surge of cash to fund it. Every aspect, from the choice of location to the tiny marks on the dies, was a calculated decision. It shows us a state thinking ahead, allocating its precious resources, and using its economic might as deliberately as its military power to bind its territories together and assert its sovereign will on every transaction, in every marketplace across the known world. A buried treasure chest is a story that was never finished. Across the ancient world, when the horizon filled with smoke or the ground trembled with the march of an approaching army, people made a desperate choice. They gathered their life savings, their most valuable possession, and they hid it away, hoping to return when the danger passed. For thousands of these people, that day never came. Their hidden wealth, these coin hoards, became accidental time capsules, sealed by fear and forgotten by time. Each one is a frozen moment of panic, a silent scream into the future that we can now hear. The composition of a hoard tells a meticulous story. A collection of worn, low-value bronze coins speaks of a poor family's meager savings, every coin hard-earned and painfully saved. A pot filled with pristine gold ore and heavy silver denarii, all of the highest quality and recent minting, suggests the treasury of a wealthy merchant or a military paymaster, hidden in a frantic rush. The date on the latest coin in the hoard is the most crucial clue of all. It acts like a timestamp, telling archaeologists that the burial must have happened in or after that year. When multiple hoards from the same region all share a similar latest date, it paints an undeniable picture of a widespread catastrophe, a wave of fear that washed over an entire population. The Frome hoard in Britain is one of the most astonishing examples. This massive ceramic pot held over 52,000 Roman coins, a fortune that would have been impossible for a single individual to carry. The sheer volume suggests this was not a personal savings but a communal offering, a ritual deposit meant for the gods, or perhaps the collected taxes of an entire district, hidden from a rebel force or an invading army. The act of burying it was a profound act of faith, a belief in a future that for them never arrived. These hidden caches are more than just collections of metal. They are windows into the most intimate moments of ancient lives. They reveal what people truly valued when everything was on the line, the denominations they trusted to hold value, and the sheer human hope that someday they could dig their normal lives back up out of the earth. An eagle was not just a bird on a Roman coin, it was the living embodiment of Jupiter himself. This deep connection between the natural world and the divine was a universal language spoken across ancient coinage, where animals and environmental motifs became powerful, instantly recognizable symbols. The most famous example is the Athenian owl. This bird was not chosen at random. It was the sacred companion of Athena, the city's namesake and protector goddess. To see the owl on a silver tetradrachm was to see a promise of wisdom and prosperity, a direct link to the divine favor that made Athens a cultural and economic powerhouse. The coin declared that the city's wealth was not just commercial but blessed. For Rome, the eagle was everything. As the bird and messenger of Jupiter, king of the gods, it symbolized the empire's divine right to rule and its unstoppable military strength. The eagle clutching a thunderbolt was more than an image. It was a statement of absolute power that flew across the known world on the wings of every legionary's pay. But this symbolic language was not limited to the great empires. A coin from a North African city might feature a majestic horse celebrating its renowned stables and cavalry. An issue from a fishing village could show a tuna or a dolphin, proudly declaring the source of its community's livelihood and wealth. These were badges of local identity and environmental pride. Perhaps the most direct links to a region's ecology are found on the coins of India and the Arab world. Indian kingdoms frequently depicted elephants, immense creatures that represented not only raw military power, but also the very landscape of the subcontinent itself. Similarly, Arabian coins proudly displayed camels, the indispensable ships of the desert that made trade and survival possible in a harsh environment. These animals were not mythical beasts, they were vital, everyday partners in human civilization. The choice of every creature, every plant, every natural element was a deliberate communication. A snarling lion spoke of a king's ferocity in battle. A wheat ear promised agricultural abundance and freedom from famine. A cluster of grapes hinted at a region's famous vineyards and the god Dionysus's gift of wine. By studying these natural symbols, we learn what a culture feared, what it revered, and what it depended upon for its survival. The coin becomes a tiny mirror held up to the ancient environment, reflecting a world where human identity was profoundly and beautifully intertwined with the natural world. The principles forged in ancient Lydia and Rome never truly vanished, they simply evolved. Look at the coins in your pocket or the bills in your wallet, and you will see the direct descendants of those first stamped electrum discs. Every modern currency still operates on that foundational promise of standardization and state authority. The symbols may have changed, but the language remains the same. A portrait of a founding father replaces the profile of a divine emperor. A national emblem like an eagle or a maple leaf stands in for the goddess Roma or Athena's owl. Even the Latin inscriptions find their echo in mottos like E pluribus unum or In God we trust. These are not arbitrary decorations, they are the continued performance of a state's power and identity, a tradition of metallic propaganda that is thousands of years old. The very trust we place in a piece of paper or a cupro-nickel alloy is the same trust a Roman soldier placed in his silver denarius, a belief backed by the full faith and credit of a governing power. This legacy extends beyond physical currency into the digital realm, where cryptocurrencies, for all their futuristic claims, still grapple with those ancient questions of trust, value, and verification. The meticulous study of ancient coins, the science of numismatics, has given us more than just a hobby. It has provided a deep historical record that economists use to understand inflation, debasement, and the long-term cycles of markets. Collectors today are continuing a tradition that began in the Renaissance, preserving these metallic pages of history. By tracing this unbroken line from the first Lydian coin to the money we use today, we see that currency has always been about far more than simple commerce. It is a physical manifestation of our collective story, a tiny, durable canvas on which we paint our values, our heroes, and our most enduring myths, proving that the most powerful ideas are those we carry in our hands every single day. A single coin in an archaeological dig provides an exact timestamp for the entire layer. This is the immense power of numismatics when it intersects with other fields, transforming a solitary object into a master key for unlocking the past. For an archaeologist carefully brushing away centuries of dirt, finding a coin is a moment of pure elation. Because coins are so often precisely dated by the ruler's reign, they can provide a firm date for everything found alongside them. The pottery, the tools, the building foundations all share a common age with that coin, allowing historians to build a reliable chronological framework for an entire site. This metallic evidence helps settle historical debates, confirming or refuting written accounts that might be biased or incomplete. But the collaboration does not end with a simple date. Historians read the coins as political texts, analyzing the shift in an emperor's portrait from a youthful ideal to a careworn realist, or the sudden appearance of victory slogans that might mask a military stalemate. The imagery and inscriptions provide a narrative, a story the state wanted to tell about itself, which historians can then compare against other sources to understand the complex reality of power. Meanwhile, material scientists bring an entirely different set of tools to the table. Using non-destructive techniques like X-ray fluorescence, they can analyze the exact elemental composition of a coin. This data reveals the silent history of the metal itself. A sudden drop in silver content points to economic crisis and imperial desperation. The unique chemical signature of the ore can even be traced back to a specific mine, mapping ancient trade routes and resource networks that written records never mentioned. This is where the true magic happens, at the convergence of these disciplines. The archaeologist provides the context, the historian interprets the message, and the scientist deciphers the material truth. Together, they turn a simple disk of metal into a multidimensional window, allowing us to reconstruct ancient societies with a clarity and confidence that no single field could ever achieve alone. This vast and intricate story is held within the palm of your hand. Ancient coinage is far more than forgotten currency. It is a cultural record book, its pages stamped in metal and etched with the very soul of a civilization. We have traced the political propaganda of emperors, the whispered prayers to forgotten gods, and the stark economic data of rising and falling empires. We have seen artistic trends travel continents and watched identities blend on a canvas no larger than a fingernail. These small artifacts offer a view of history that written records alone can never provide, a multidimensional glimpse into the markets, temples, and homes of the ancient world. They connect us directly to the people who used them, to their daily hopes, their profound struggles, and the lives they lived centuries ago. When you hold one of these coins today, you are not just a collector or a historian, you are a reader. You are holding a single page from a vast, interconnected story of humanity, a story that is still being told. The next time you are in a museum, pause by a coin collection. Look closer, see the face of a ruler, the symbol of a god, the mark of a distant mint. Ask yourself what story that small, metallic disc is waiting to tell you. What part of our shared human journey did it witness? I would love to hear your thoughts or any discoveries you have made in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the past, subscribe for more explorations of the world's greatest historical mysteries.